If you are tired of starting over, but you're terrified to stay, then I need you to listen carefully, because I want to offer you something that no one offered to me when I was in that place. And I'm not talking about selling you something, I'm talking about words, right? I'm talking about a reframe, because if someone had offered this to me far earlier, it would have saved me a lot of headache. Okay. And what that is a different way to see what's actually happening to you if you're in that space where you're tired of starting over, but you're terrified to stay. And that is, what if you're not starting over? What if everything that you've lived, everything that you've built, everything that you've survived, what if none of that disappeared? Because it doesn't. What if you're not back at zero, but you're standing at a new starting from position? That reframe changed something for me, and I think it might change something for you. If you're new to me, my name is Dr. Sherelle MacArthur, otherwise and better known as Dr. Mac. I am an associate professor, an educational researcher, an author, a speaker, a wellness and life coach to Black women, a mommy, and just like you, I am in transition. And when I say just like you, I'm in transition, this ain't no fluff. I am in transition. Okay. And so I want to take you to a moment that a lot of you may understand for your own lives. I was sitting with a client a few weeks ago, and she was working through a decision that had been circling her for a while. On one side, she could stay where she was, staying in something familiar, something that had given her a lot of sense of identity, purpose, community, networking, right? Even safety, stability. But something had shifted for her. The fit just didn't fit the same anymore. And I remember she said, Dr. Mac, me and the mister the other night, we got all dressed up and we went out and I put on my favorite pair of heels. I used to love these heels, Dr. Mac, she went on to me. And she was like, girl, by the time I got home, my whole body was hurting. Listen, I'm at an age where I'd rather have on, look, take me to a sneaker ball. Can I go somewhere where my feet and my back can be comfortable all night? But that's what she was saying her current position felt like staying where she was didn't fit the same, even though she had grown accustomed to that particular location. So she could stay, but it hurts now, right? It doesn't fit the same now. It doesn't carry the same comfort as it once did, right? You understand that? And so she could stay, but on the other side, she could leave. She could move towards something new, something that she desired but couldn't fully see yet, right? Because she wasn't in it. And the thought that was stopping her wasn't, could she do it? She knows who she is, and she dope as AF, okay? The sister is dope AF. So her question to herself wasn't, could she do it? Her question was, how many times am I going to start over? That's where we sat in our coaching session. But Dr. Mac, how many times am I going to have to start over? She felt like she had already started over far too many times. And there was a quiet shame she was carrying about starting over. Like each new beginning was some sort of evidence that she had failed to hold something together or achieve some accomplishment, even though she was dope AF. If you could see this sister's resume, my God, okay. But maybe you too know that feeling, the exhaustion of it, the embarrassment of it, the way it can make you hold on to something that no longer fits. Just because the feeling of letting go is like losing ground that you've worked so hard for. Anybody understand that feeling? And here's what I want us to do. I want us to first name that, right? The framing of starting over is doing a lot of damage to Black women. Now I have to start over? Ooh. And maybe in another conversation, we could talk about what that looks like in relationships when women are unwilling to leave spaces that do not serve them, that do not deserve them, because of the idea that I'll have to start over with someone new. Okay, I'm gonna say that for another day. But in regards to career or relocation or a variety of other life transitions, to include romantic relationships, let's be very clear. I think that part of it is that starting over implies erasure. It implies that what came before it didn't count, doesn't count. Now, I'm a former elementary school teacher. My favorite grade was fourth grade. And so when I told a baby to start over, I needed them to start from scratch because the answer on their paper was not correct. This is not it. Hey, Jeff. Hey, baby. I need you to start over. And you know the kids be knowing, so they just, and they start erasing their paper. Yeah, and I think that's what it feels like when you continue to say, I have to start over. It feels like erasure, like everything that you did before it doesn't count. And so maybe you think that if you start over, you're back at the beginning. Inexperienced, unprepared, empty-handed. But none of that is true. You're not the same woman that you were the last time that you stepped into something new. You are wiser. You are more self-aware. You have gained far more experience this time. And even if you have scar tissue, that becomes your strength. You have lessons that live in your body now, not just your mind. You bring all of that with you wherever you go and every time you go there. That's not the beginning. So let's retire the idea of starting over and replace it with starting from. Because you're not starting back there. You're starting from right where you are. And aside, baby, that's the same for relationships. You are far wiser than you were when you started with that partner, however long ago that was. You're wiser, you're more certain of who you are, how you show up, the ways that you handle arguments and conversations and things that you're running from, things that are still unhealed in you. You have all of that right here that maybe you didn't have when you started. You're not starting over, you're starting from. I hope that frees somebody who's sitting watching like, is she speaking to me? I am. Okay, so you're not starting over, you're starting from experience, you're starting from clarity that you had to earn the hard way. You are starting from a deeper understanding of who you are and what you will and will not tolerate. Starting from yourself. You're starting from yourself. The better version of you now, which is the most powerful place anyone can begin, is with themselves, with the knowing of self better than I did when I started this job, this relationship, this role in this city, in this country. From self. Now let's talk about the other side of this tension, right? Because some of you aren't just thinking about the idea of starting over. Some of you are terrified to stay. And I want to honor that too. Some people are like, what if I start over? And some people are like, I fear the idea of staying put. And that fear is real, and that fear is valid, because staying in something that no longer fits, that carries its own cost. And I wish that I could say more right now about how I am right there with you at what it looks like to be in a position and you know what it's doing to you to stay there. Okay? Just trust me when I say that I feel you for real, and then we'll talk about it later. Me and God still talk about it. There is a slow erosion that happens when we remain in spaces and roles and relationships that have stopped telling the truth of who we are. There's a slow erosion of our joy, of our happiness, of our fulfillment, of our contentment. We start to shrink. We start to, put on a mask just to be in that space. We start to manage the discomfort that we feel instead of just addressing it head on. And over time, we begin to lose the thread back to ourselves because we're so caught up in just getting through the day to day. Does anybody feel that? My God, today. So for those people, they are tired of the risk of leaving, terrified of the slow disappearing of yourself. The slow disappearing of yourself when you stay. And I want to offer you this. Both of those feelings are information. They're not instructions, but they're information. They are your inner wisdom, your inner knowing, trying to get your attention. The exhaustion of starting over is telling you something about how you've been narrating your own story in your head, how you are maybe judging yourself too harshly for the decisions that you've had to make. And the terror of staying is telling you something about what you already know, but you either haven't said out loud or haven't made a concrete decision about. And the question is not, should I stay or should I go? The question is, who do I want to be and which choice honors her? Who do I want to be and which choice honors her? And the thing about Black women in transition in this liminal space, and if you haven't heard me talk about liminal space, go check out more of my videos, especially if you find yourself in this in-between, stuck in between seasons and places and beings, right? The thing about Black women who are still becoming, Black women who are in transition in the liminal space that I keep coming to again and again is that the women that are moving, the women who aren't stuck, who aren't stagnant, who have the most fidelity with themselves are not the ones who had the most certainty. They're just the ones who got the most honest with themselves, who sat with their own discomfort long enough to hear what their discomfort was saying, right? Which choice honors where I'm going, who I want to be. And then they moved on it. They didn't keep questioning it. They sat in the discomfort. They understood the answer, and then they moved on it. They stopped letting fear make decisions on behalf of their future. Because your history is not a liability. And I know sometimes it feels that way when it's like, man, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be going through this today. Or if I had done this, it would put me in a better position today. But your past is a curriculum that can be studied to advance. So sis, you are not starting over. You are starting from everything you are. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. I really do, because you are not going through this alone. My client is not going through this alone. I am not going through this alone, right? So let's get into conversation with each other. I want to hear from you. Tell me, what's one thing that you've carried from a season that felt like starting over, but now that you've reflected upon it, you recognize that there are things that you gained and not just things that you lost. Does that make sense? What's one thing that you've carried forward from a season that felt like starting over? Right? I'm no longer in that job. I'm in this job, and it felt like I was starting over. But Dr. Mac, I recognized. I'm no longer with that boo. I'm with this boo, and it felt like starting over. But Dr. Mac, I recognized. I'm no longer in this city. I'm in that city. But I'm not starting over. I recognized. Right? Let's rewrite our stories, our narratives together in this space, in these comments. And if this video found you at the right moment, sis, I need you to share it. Because if I'm saying something that my client is going through, that I'm going through, and it resonated with you, that means it's going to resonate with somebody else. I need you to share it, because there's a woman in your circle who is standing at this crossroads right now. There's a woman who follows you. There's a woman who you know loosely. It doesn't matter. You probably not telling your story with others, in as much as I'm not, in as much as my client is really only sharing it with me, right? But what does it look like if we could become and journey through these transitions together? Because we stronger together, baby. We better together. So I need you to send it to her. Sometimes the most loving thing we can say to someone, or we could do for someone, is to say, I saw this and I thought of you, right? And I'm going to keep thinking of you. So I'm going to keep putting content out there. And if there's something that you really want me to speak to, drop that in the comments too, right? Let's reframe and let's continue our becoming together.